Imani woke up before the morning even cleared its throat. No alarm, no knock, just her body jerking up like it had heard the voice of hardship calling from outside. The house was still dark and quiet, the kind of quiet that told you peace did not live here. She dragged her small wrapper over her shoulders, stepped onto the cold, cracked floor, and picked up the broom by the corner. It had lost half its sticks, just like she had lost half her joy. She swept the compound slowly. Dust swirled into the air like yesterday's pain. Imani didn't mind. Her 10-year-old body was already used to this routine. Before light, before breakfast, before anyone called her name. And even when they called, it was never with love. By the time the morning sun started stretching its lazy fingers across the sky, Imani had already swept, fetched water from the stream, and arranged the firewood for breakfast. Inside the kitchen, her stepmother, Monifa, stood over the boiling pot like an angry judge. She opened the pot of stew, sniffed once, and shouted, "Who cooked this rubbish?" Imani stood silently by the door, hands clasped. "Me, Ma," Monifa scoffed. "This thing that looks like blood from a wounded goat, you call it stew." She dipped her spoon into it, tasted it, and made a sound like she had licked engine oil. "You want to kill us in this house, Abi. You think I don't know you're a witch. You want me and your father to die the way your so-called mother died, right? It won't work." Before Imani could even blink, Monifa flung the entire pot out the kitchen window. The pot hit the wall, bounced, and landed upside down, like its destiny had ended. Imani just stood there, lips pressed shut. Her stomach grumbled, but she didn't move. She was used to it. Now go and kneel down under that sun. And if I hear a peep from you, I will peel your back like yam. As Imani turned to leave, Zola, Monifa's daughter, walked in wearing her school uniform and chewing gum like a town girl. She looked Imani up and down and laughed. "You still haven't died? Wow, even death is rejecting you. Then, just for fun." She threw her school sandal at Imani's chest. It hit her. Imani picked it up without a word and kept moving. Later that evening, Imani sat on the cold floor of her tiny corner room. She brought out her most prized possession, a faded photograph of a smiling woman, her father, and a little girl between them, her mother, the only face that ever looked at her with love. She hugged the photo tight and whispered, "Mama, why didn't you take me with you?" The next day, Imani almost fainted while returning from the stream. Her head spun, her knees buckled, but she made it home, only to be greeted with more fire. "You, this devil's handbag," Monifa screamed. "Why are you walking like you're carrying a coffin on your back? You're a disgrace." Imani's mouth opened slightly. "I'm sorry, Ma. Don't mommy me. I'm tired of pretending you're my child. In fact, you're not even my husband's child." Imani blinked. Monifa dropped the bomb with pride. "Yes, they picked you from the forest like goat. Your so-called mother was barren. One day she saw you lying near a tree and said, 'God has given me a child.' My husband told that barren lizard you call mother, 'Leave that thing.' But no, she didn't listen. She brought you home. Now she's dead. Maybe your witchcraft finally worked." Imani didn't feel her knees give way. She didn't even feel the floor when she hit it. The words swam around her head like flies. "Picked. Forest. Not your child." Which, that night, she gathered courage and approached her father. He was peeling groundnuts outside. "Baba Malik," she said, voice shaking. "Is it true?" He didn't even raise his head. "Is what true? That I was picked? That Mama wasn't my real mother?" He looked at her then, with eyes so cold she flinched. "Yes, we picked you. She insisted on bringing you. I told her it would end in tears, and now she's gone. And you're still here." Imani opened her mouth. No words came out. "You were never ours. Just a thing we found. Be grateful we let you stay this long." She stood there frozen, then turned, slowly walked back to her room, and lay on the floor, no tears. Just emptiness. The next morning, Imani didn't wake up before dawn. She didn't sweep. She didn't fetch water. She just lay there, staring at the cracked ceiling, letting Monifa's screams echo like distant thunder. When the door burst open and Monifa stormed in, hands on her waist like a hurricane gathering force, she shouted, "Lazy girl, so you've now added useless to your titles." But Imani didn't flinch. She just stared past her like she was already somewhere else. That scared Monifa more than any tantrum could. "You've gone mad, Abi, that's fine. Let the madness carry you away." But it didn't. Not yet. Later that week, a woman from the village came visiting, a nurse named Auntie Keisha who ran a clinic in town. She had heard of Imani's fainting spell at the stream. "Let me just take a look," she insisted, pulling Imani gently into the shade. Keisha touched her forehead. "This child is burning up. When last did she eat?" Monifa snorted. "She eats enough. Don't mind her drama." But Keisha wasn't fooled. She leaned close and whispered to Imani, "My clinic is open. If you ever need a place to breathe, come find." That night, Imani stared at the moon and made a decision. She wrapped a photo of her mother in a piece of cloth, tied it to her waist, and crept out just as the crickets began their midnight song. She walked barefoot down the dusty path, past the village square, past the place where they said spirits whispered. She reached the clinic by dawn. Auntie Keisha opened the door, surprised but not unprepared. "Come in, my child," she said, pulling Imani into a warm hug that melted weeks of frost. The days that followed felt like stolen paradise. Imani slept on a mattress, ate warm food, smiled. Keisha enrolled her in a community school and even bought her second-hand books. Imani worked hard, harder than anyone else, not out of fear, but gratitude. One afternoon, a sleek black car pulled up outside the clinic. Out stepped a tall man in a suit, dark-skinned, sharp-featured, and carrying authority like a second skin. His name was Mr. Darius Okafor, a social worker and adoption officer. "We got a report about a child," he said, abandoned, possibly mistreated. Imani hid behind the curtain, her heart pounding. Keisha stepped forward, calm and firm. She wasn't abandoned, she escaped. "She's safe here." Darius studied Keisha, then Imani. Something softened in his face. "She deserves better than this broken system. Maybe something permanent." Weeks passed. Papers were filed, interviews done. When Monifa found out, she stormed into the clinic with Zola trailing behind, screaming curses and demanding Imani back. But Darius was there. He raised a hand and said, "Madam, if you loved her, she wouldn't be here in the first place." Monifa lunged at Imani, but Zola stopped her. "Let her go, Mom," Zola said, surprising everyone. "You never loved her. Maybe it's time someone else does." Monifa stood there, stunned, speechless for once. The day the adoption was finalized, Darius took Imani's hand and smiled. "Welcome home, daughter." Imani wept, not out of pain, but relief. Years later, Imani stood on a stage in New York, a young woman in a cap and gown. Valedictorian of her class, she spoke with a steady voice. "I was once told I came from the forest, but today I stand before you because someone saw my worth." This is for every child who was ever called and wanted. You are not a mistake. You are a miracle. The crowd stood, clapping. Somewhere in the front row, Auntie Keisha dabbed her eyes. Beside her, Darius clapped with pride. And in Imani's heart, her mother's photo, now framed in gold, smiled with her. The moral is this: do not let anyone's opinion of you become your reality. The people who try to break you are often the ones most afraid of what you'll become if you heal. Rise anyway, love anyway, hope anyway. Because you are not who they said you were, you are who you decide to become.